Okay, we're back once again with Sane African Productions. I am here at my alma mater, Cal State University, East Bay. Shout out to us. And I've got a great guest with me today. I will let him introduce himself for the camera.
What's up, everybody? I'm Khalid White, author, entrepreneur, professor, father, husband. Wear a couple different hats, but I'm glad to be here with you this afternoon.
Powerful. Okay. Can I call you Dr. White? All right. I love the title. I want to respect that. All right. So, yeah, like I said, I'm here with Dr. Akil White. Thank you for joining me today. It's a pleasure to have you here. We was just talking before camera, but I just want to let the people know I met this brother about 5 years ago at Laney College. He was hosting a viewing for his movie that you directed and produced, correct?
Yes, sir.
That's what it is, Independence. It was called Black Fatherhood, Trials and Tribulations.
Yep.
Zoom in on that right there.
Black Fatherhood, Trials and Tribulations, Testimony and Triumph, the name of the book and the film.
That's what it is. So, yeah, I met that brother at his showing about 5 years ago, 2018. I was blessed to get a signed copy of the book, so thank you for that. So I would say here, as you see the book, you can check it out on Amazon. Go get that. And as well, stream the movie. Mm-hmm. It is available as well. But we'll get to that. So I just want to start off. How you doing today? Everything well?
Everything is great. I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to be with you, of all people. And thank you for looping me back in terms of we met some years ago. Now we got a chance to get a chance to kind of rap on a more personal basis. And thank you for your support as well.
My pleasure. So I want to start just giving us a background. Who is Dr. Khalid Akil White, and where are you from, brother? How was it coming of age for you?
Yeah. So me coming of age, I grew up really right down the street from here in the city of Fremont, and I still live right around the corner from now Cal State East Bay, which was in my day Cal State Hayward. But coming of age for me was, a decent childhood, a normal childhood, normal adolescence. I played sports. I worked and worked a couple different jobs and that type of thing, and tried to get good grades and all the types of things that your parents would want you to do. I wasn't necessarily a child that got into a whole bunch of trouble or mischief, but coming of age also there was a little bit of that there here and there, right? But I was fortunate, man. Fortunate to have both of my parents. Although they were in separate households, I still have both of them and both of them in my life. So I was very blessed as far as that's concerned. And at a young age, I was introduced to African American culture, which I understand now is kind of the foundation for my direction going to African American studies. And as I think about it, books were a huge part of my household, a huge part of my life. Books, reading, magazines, things of that sort. And really my introduction to Black culture from kind of outside of the home was Jet magazine, Ebony magazine, Black Enterprise. Obviously in the home, there's the things that your parents tell you, or my grandparents. I was fortunate to have them, aunts and uncles, who kind of raised me and that type of thing. But outside of just the family unit, man, looking at the Jet magazine, watching Soul Train, things of that sort, right? That kind of was my introduction to a broader African American culture. And then watching things like Teen Summit on BET, and getting involved in youth groups and church groups and things like that, right? Kind of opened me up to the culture kind of outside of my just immediate circle. So firstly, just opening up those Jet magazines and looking through Ebony and that type of thing, kind of like, man, it was intriguing. It was beautiful women. The men were dressed sharp. It kind of woke me up as a young man. But, I also was just very curious. I love to read. I still do. Henceforth, you see all the different books and, that type of thing.
Thank you, sir. And yeah, I gotta agree 100% with you on that. While you was talking, I'm thinking of my great uncle, always had a black enterprise on his table, had a subscription, because he was a businessman in San Francisco. So he was dressed just like them brothers on the cover, suited and booted. My grandmother, every Jet magazine, she was getting them as a childhood, even as an adult. I seen them. I remember seeing these things. Ebony, Essence. Yeah, my mama had all of it. So yeah, it was there.
Later on, it emerged for me, or excuse me, later on, it morphed from the Ebony and the Essence and that type of thing to Right On, Vibe, The Source, Double XL, Rap Pages, things of that sort, right? So it's kind of like a natural progression. And then as I was kind of like a teen, 15, 16, 17, right? Particularly playing sports, you start to see more of a crossover between sports and like hip hop culture. And that intrigued me in a different way. So, it's kind of like almost a natural progression or path to why I'm teaching African American studies today, because it started from a young age. Then the barber shops and the beauty shops and things, all that it fed me. Now that I can look back on it, it fed me in some different ways, some unique ways.
Thank you. Two questions. First, because we got the books right here. Well, I'll get to the books later. You say your parents. Can you give me one thing from each of your parents that they told you, demonstrated, showed you that you still stick with today?
Okay. Just one thing. If I can narrow it down to one thing. From my dad, hard work, consistency, follow through. Just being a person of your word. Case in point, you reached out to me months ago. I gave you a date. We worked on that date, went back and forth, but I told you, look, I got some things going, but I'll be there, and here we are today. So like standing on your word, being a man of your word, that was a thing that I learned from him, and being hardworking and kind of dedicated to the things that you have in mind, your goals for yourself. That's one thing, or a number of things, I guess. From my mother, I got, I just got my people skills. My mom is a people person. She shows her love through engaging with people and being inviting to them and reaching out to them and calling them and checking in with them. So those are the two things that I can just kind of say off the top of my head that I got them. There's a whole bunch of other things, but yeah, people skills on one hand, and then like consistency and hard work on the other.
Okay, thank you. I would say coming of age, you said Fremont. Okay. How was it coming up in Fremont, and how was it just in your formative years during high school? What are some of the things you were doing?
Coming of age was different in the 90s. It's not the tech world that you kind of see today. The Bay Area was different. So it was a little bit more culture, a little more black culture. Oakland has always been the mecca of black culture here in the Bay Area. So if you wanted to kind of experience that, you went to Oakland. And, at that time you could, go back and forth to Oakland. There wasn't the traffic. There wasn't, the BART wasn't as crazy. It was a different time, in the late 90s, mid to late 90s coming of age. High school for me was interesting because, I went to a high school that really had like it became known as like an academic high school. So it started weeding out people demographically. Oh, yeah. So you saw the demographics change from 9th grade to 10th grade, right? Early on, my 9th and 10th grade years, was a lot more students of color. As the demographics changed, that got less and less, and it became more like based on Asian kids, white kids, and became like a college prep school. But fortunately, that also helped me in terms of my preparation to go to college, which I ended up doing directly out of high school. And I went to a historically black college. In my senior year of high school, 1997, there was a gentleman that ran historically black college and university tours. His name was Carl Ray. So I got a chance to go on one of the Carl Ray tours. And it was kids from all over Northern California that went on the tour. And we went to Tuskegee University in Alabama, and then also like the Atlanta schools, Clark Atlanta, Morehouse, Spelman, Morris Brown. But we also went during homecoming. And so that was so different from my experience in high school, just being around and seeing all those black people in college and, achieving academically. Even if they weren't, it seemed like they were. You know what I mean? Even if it wasn't, it seemed like it was. And so I knew right then and there, I want to go to one of these historically black colleges, right? And come to find out, I have a little bit of a lineage with historically black colleges in my family. Some of my aunts and uncles and grandparents actually went to some of those black schools or historically black colleges in Louisiana or in Oklahoma and places like that. So it's kind of in the DNA. And so long story short, out of high school, decent high school experience. I won't knock it because it provided me a great foundation. But socially, I was missing out. So the social part and the academic part, I was able to kind of receive in a different way that, that the high school couldn't give me when I went to the historically black colleges. And there I was introduced to African American studies more formally as a field of study. Whether we're talking about black psychology, whether we're talking about, directly African history and African American history, whether we're talking about black sociology, whether we're looking at the black diaspora from Africa to the Caribbean and Europe to the United States and beyond, it was there. And I soaked it up. I enjoyed it. Not to mention the historically black colleges are very fun. There's a lot of social, lot that you can get into on a positive social tip, a lot that you can get to on a negative social tip. It kind of depends on who your crowd was. Unfortunately, I fell in line with some guys that were pretty much moving in the right direction. And funny thing is, out of high school, I might have had like a 2.6 GPA. Nothing fancy. I was very smart. I was always, intelligent, but didn't really apply myself. When I got to college, I graduated with like a 3.6, 3.7, so I was in honors classes. And again, it was kind of the circle that I was around helped me to kind of actualize some of my potential, So, I got to give, a lot of respect to the historically black colleges and universities just for what they do from a self-esteem point for me and for other black students, and what they do in terms of opening and broadening our horizons. Yeah.
Thank you. And that was Morehouse, right?
Morehouse College. Yeah.
That's right. Morehouse, House of Dr. King.
Absolutely.
That's what I'm talking about. You touched on something very important, and for those of us within high school or in our college years, the crowds we choose, how we be social, how that kind of lays the path for what may happen next. And for you, how you were able to actualize your potential, learn new skills and new hobbies. Can you explain how that worked for you by the type of social crowd you chose to be around and led you to being successful and bringing out more of yourself that you didn't know was there?
Very great question. The company you keep is important, whether we're talking about, in high school or college or beyond. If you don't go to college, that's fine. But you also want to keep yourself around people that are going in the directions that you want to go into. And that's not always an easy choice to make. I have some friends that were going in some opposite ways. I tried some opposite things with them, from time to time. Just didn't work. It wasn't, I wasn't me. I didn't feel like I could be me. And so I was able to kind of, through trial and error in some cases, get with some people that were going in some directions that I wanted to. And once I finally got more comfortable with me and who I was, and who I am and who I want to become, then I try to really associate myself with people who were kind of traveling in that direction. And fortunately, I was able to kind of make some good choices around some of those people who motivated me to, hey, let's go study, and then we can go kick it. Let's go, do this, get our work out the way, then we can go play basketball, or then we can go play video games. Now, that didn't happen 100% of the time, right? We did the opposite. We might go kick it first, and then, now I got to go try to study and get the work done. But more often than not, we did things that were, leading us down a positive path. And I can't take all the credit for that. It was, again, the circle that I was around, but also the circle that I was around helped me to develop some leadership skills, because I could be comfortable enough within to be like, hey, nah, let's go this way. Everybody else going that way, I don't think we should do that. That's not our lane, or that's not our thing. That's not my thing. And if I care for you and you care for me, then we're going to support each other in the lanes that we're supposed to be in, right? So, again, I can look back on it now with some hindsight and say, oh, this was leadership kind of development. And, to be perfectly honest with you, Joey, the friends that I developed at college, at Morehouse College, are still some of my best friends today. We still, 20 some odd years later, still on group chats, still call each other, still trying to do business with each other. It's so really developed some great friendships and some great relationships. And yeah, I'm fortunate that peer group kind of steered me in some real good directions, and hopefully, flip side, I steered them in some good directions too.
Thank you. What are some of those brothers doing today, or sisters, that you did study with and fellowship with? How 20 years later, how are they doing, and what are they doing?
You know what? That's a great question that you asked. All of them are in the professional world now. I got a couple friends, good buddies of mine, that are lawyers, big time lawyers in San Francisco and Oakland. Some work for Google. Some are entrepreneurs. I got a good buddy of mine that's a very popular DJ out there in Atlanta. He's all over the radio and touring around and that type of thing. So, let's see. A couple other are in kind of the business world, financial services world. So it's a kind of a range of things, but everybody is doing well. Everybody is doing well in terms of their kind of what's the word I'm trying to say? Their path that they chose professionally. Most are doing very well in terms of their relationships and being dads and having kids and things of that sort, and being husbands and stuff. Got a couple friends that are single, that too. So they're still trying to find and navigate, their way in terms of relationships. But all in all, man, I'm very pleased to say a number of them went on to get JDs and MBAs and MSWs and things of that sort. So yeah, my crowd, man, I really didn't hang with too many people that weren't handling business, and it rubbed off on me, and yeah, I got a great core group of friends that are still very successful, and we still are very, in good touch and good contact with each other.
That's great. I think that's a powerful thing, especially when we build these black relationships from different walks of life, and that helps us communicate with others better and see the world from a different aspect, other African American experience or African diasporic experience. So that's great, and I think that, this is why one of the reasons I do this interview platforms. To highlight brothers and sisters like that, because you'll see a lot of athletes and entertainers that are pushed to us, but I'm like, he don't know nothing about mathematics or engineering, and it's like, or law or culture. Let's talk to somebody who knows what they're speaking about, but actually has that passion, has that experience, and is actually daily doing the work. And I think the message will be relayed more, and as well for just the young people, that here's an example, a walking, talking, living, breathing example that may have come from may not have the same experience as you, but can relate, may have some lived experience by somebody they know within their family that may have the same circumstance as you, and here they are. So thank you for sharing that. It was very powerful. One thing I wanted to ask that you touched on just now is something I learned more within academia of studying African American culture, history, studies, the different facets of how things are broken down, as you just explained, black psychology, black sociology, even black science or black biology, looking at things like that. But my question to you is, who are 5 African Americans, whether contemporary or modern, that have inspired you to be here today and walk the path that you're walking?
If we're looking outside like the family, obviously Dr. King, coming out of a Morehouse sociology department, like, I did, he was a Morehouse sociology major. And as I kind of look at his path, he took on leadership roles early. Dr. King kind of led that Montgomery bus boycott. He was probably 25 or so, 26, somewhere in there. So he got really as off the porch, as they say, early in terms of his, social activism and that type of thing. But he comes from a family of activists too. Du Bois, if you want to know anything about King, you probably have to look at Du Bois as a predecessor to him, right? So W.E.B. Du Bois was one that, inspired me. Malcolm X, obviously. If we're looking at, some of the more contemporary people, she passed not too long ago, but Dr. Frances Cress Welsing was one, that was, she was, people would say that she's kind of left field or out there, but she made complete sense to me when I started reading the ISIS papers and things of that sort. It made a lot of sense to me and opened up, my mind and my lens, particularly from a female perspective, but she talked a lot about black men and what black men need to do. I read some books by a brother and heard him speak a few times, Dr. Naeem Akbar, Visions for Black Men and that type of thing. He was great in terms of his inspiration. I know that's probably 4 or 5 now, but another one that I love, Magic Johnson, adversity. And he went through adversity with a smile on his face the whole time, but his business acumen, what can you say about that? You can't say nothing negative about what he's done business-wise. E40, in terms of longevity, in terms of staying in his lane, and whether you liked it or didn't like it, whether you agree with it or not. The way he his delivery, his style, very unorthodox, but he stayed in his lane. And look at the lanes he's in now. And now he's considered a legend, where at, other times people, he's just local, he's regional. No, this is a global icon and legend. So that's an inspiration. I would also say, I love what athletes like Stephen Curry do. I love Colin Kaepernick. I'm influenced by these athletes and entertainers too. I'm not an athlete nor an entertainer, right? However, I do like the ones that are not just there to pick up checks, but those who are actually making, kind of impact in the community because of the platform that they have. So, those are some of the influences. Several people that have influenced me in what I do. There's a couple educators, and I'll just name a few kind of local in California. A brother at Chabot College, Art Barbosa. He started a program called the Striving Black Brothers 20 some odd years ago. And that program has impacted so many young men in the Bay Area and beyond, just in terms of like a support group, an academic support group, but also an interpersonal support group. He's definitely an inspiration to me. There's some gentlemen that I've had a chance to work with, Dr. Frank Harris and Dr. Luke Wood. Luke Wood just became the president of Sacramento State, but those two gentlemen have inspired me. There's some others. I'm probably going to forget some people. Dr. Siri Brown at Merritt College was an inspiration to me for sure. And I've got a chance to kind of work with some colleagues who inspire me. There's too many to list and to name, but those are some inspirations for what I do.
Okay, thank you. I would definitely go look some of the people up. Definitely. Okay. So after graduating Morehouse, did you get into the professional world, or did you do into some graduate studies? Please explain how you after that.
After graduation from Morehouse, I went to graduate studies. I was had a foot in the professional world. I had an internship at TNT or TBS television studios while I was kind of like my junior and senior year. Great opportunity. They wanted me to kind of work there full time, and they offered me a position, but I ultimately turned it down. And then they fired me. But just so happened, I was getting ready to go to grad school anyway. So it wasn't a fire They not only did they fire me or they got rid of me in my position, but they also threw me a going away party and congratulations on your next step. So it wasn't no hard feelings, but yeah, I went into graduate studies, and if I can just kind of retract back for just 1 second, some of my friends that I was mentioning at Morehouse, they got me into a mentoring program as a mentor for young kids, second and third and fourth grade. And, that mentoring program led me into wanting to go into education more full time. So that kind of opened me up to, hey, man, I like working with kids. I like working with youth. We working with black youth, in the city of Atlanta, from a kind of real impoverished neighborhood. But the results that those kids were having kind of from the program that's later turned into a charter school and beyond, some great success. And so that experience led me to want to go to be like a teacher or a counselor. So I went into graduate school with the idea that I'm going to go be a counselor, be a teacher, work with youth. And so from Morehouse, I was able to go to graduate studies at Harvard School of Education in Boston. And rough experience, to be quite honest with you. Leaving the HBCU bubble, right, black bubble, and going up to Boston and being in a very racialized, very contentious space, that it really wasn't good socially. It really wasn't good mentally and emotionally for me. Looking back on it again, I'm glad I survived it and got out. But it was rough, but it does give you something on your resume at Harvard University that it stops people in their tracks. They want to know about that. But ultimately, that experience for me wasn't the greatest. I'll be perfectly honest with you. But I met some good people there, had some good experiences there. It taught me and grew me into a man, it helped me grow into a man. And ultimately from there, came back to the Bay Area and started working in like nonprofit world and K through 12 world. And I've been in education kind of ever since. Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Can you explain what were some of the things that you ran across? Well, first off,
yeah,
hats off to you for going to Harvard. Like I said, that's
yeah,
very prestigious.
Right on.
Been there. What were some of the things that you ran into that were racialized, if you can explain a little bit?
The police.
Oh.
First and foremost, city police and also Harvard police, man. They, harassed me and that type of thing. So probably on the second day I arrived at Harvard, I was kind of walking through the campus, huge campus. It's like a city within itself, right? So I kind of told myself, look, I'm going to walk around and get lost. If I find my way back, that's how I'm going to start kind of knowing the terrain. And man, it's a city. It's a big university, a lot of people out. But kind of in the back of my mind, I felt like somebody was following me. Come to find out it was the police. Wow. I tried to go into a building, which was the gym. At the time, I like to play basketball. So I was trying to see, man, who's in there, what's it looking like in here? So I started pulling on the doors. The doors were locked. I noticed a police car kind of behind me, but, I didn't pay too much attention. But I felt like somebody was kind of on me. Man, I'm pulling on these doors. As soon as I turn around, there's 4 or 5 officers on me. I'm talking about no personal space, and they started questioning me, harassing me, that type of thing. But so that was like on the second day I got there. It just soured my whole experience from there on, man. And first thing they asked me was, hey, do you belong here? And I was, actually, yeah, I do. I'm a student here. You know what I mean? We got into a whole back and forth of, verbal back and forth. Man, I kid you not, maybe next 2 or 3 days later, those same 2 or 3 of those same officers showed up at my dorm for a public safety meeting. So everybody came down to hear the officers speak. Yeah, we're here for your protection, your safety. If you, notice anything or anybody who's not supposed to be on campus, call us immediately. We'll be there to protect you and to keep you safe because you're our top priority. So I said, officer, excuse me. By keeping us safe from people that don't belong, that's what you told me I didn't belong on campus. So you mean young and black? Because that's me. Y'all were the same ones that harassed me the other day. And we got into it in the meeting. And, I just was they pissed me off, man, to be honest with you, It still makes me upset. But that was just the tip of the iceberg. I started working in a section of the city that was traditionally Irish, proud, have a history in the city of Boston. You know, they don't play. There's some tough Irish dudes out there, man. There's some tough Italians out there. You know what I mean? That city of Boston is very segregated still to this day. Well, I haven't been there in a while, but last I was there, it was very segregated. Dominicans and Puerto Ricans here, black people and Haitians and Jamaicans there, the Irish over there, Italians there. They don't really do a whole lot of mixing and mingling and intermingling. At least while I was there, they didn't. So I had to work in the Irish section of town, South Boston, and they did not like black folks. I mean, I got cussed out all the time, whether it's on the train, on the bus, walking to the school, walking from the school. It's crazy. But you know, they were set tripping, basically. You know what I mean? That's basically what it was. And the interesting thing about it was at the high school that I worked at, South Boston High School, they bust in all these kids of color. So all your black students, your Haitians, your Jamaicans, your Dominicans, they were all going to that school. So the high school was kind of crazy that it's in this section of the city, and all the kids get bused from other places in the city to that high school, but the high school itself is in a very traditional Irish part of town, segregated Irish part of town, man. So that tripped me out. That was a very, very interesting experience. The school, you know, they had the police and the police dogs, and it was a lot going on at that school at that time, man. It was kind of, yeah, it was a lot. But I really got a chance to make some impact. Ran some young men's groups and did a basketball tournament there, and had like a young men's group that I kind of developed there, or I'm sorry, developed. I took them under my wing, some of those young men, and I'm still in touch with some of them to this day. Yeah, so that again helped me to kind of cement my footing in education. That experience though in Boston was an eye opener. Plus that weather.
Oh yeah.
You know, I don't go to this. I've never really been in the snow like that. You know, in California, unless you want to go to the snow, you might not never experience snow. I'm talking snow 3-4 feet high. You know, overnight it snows. Yeah, the snow piled up to 4 feet. You got to dig your car out the snow if you have a car, or you got to dig your way through blizzards. It was a rough year. It was some rough times out there. But it was some good times. I survived it, you know, by the grace of God, and I got through it, and I'm here today, and I'm better for it. But that experience, I feel like I'm ranting now and just rambling, but that experience was, man, you'd have to kind of go through it to understand. That experience was not kind to black folks. That experience was not necessarily kind to me. That experience, though, helped me to know that I could really get through anything, you know. Put me in a foreign place, I'll be able to make it, you know. So it kind of it cemented my adulthood. Mm-hmm.
Cool. Okay, so jumping forward a little bit, in adulthood, so education, what levels of education are you teaching on? I do know you work with a few universities as well, right? So speak about that, your experience working at the universities and some of the great things you're doing for the students there.
Well, I've been fortunate to work at the university level, 4-year university, San Jose State. My main 9-to-5 bread and butter has been at the community college, the 2-year school, which is San Jose City College. And so, man, I just, I've been fortunate, very, very blessed to have an opportunity to teach African-American studies, sociology, history, black history, and things of that sort. This is my 15th year now at San Jose City College. So I started in, early 20s, mid to late 20s, I'm sorry. So now, I've got a chance to kind of grow up in the classroom with some of these young people. And again, it's the relationship building. I might not be the greatest teacher. I think I'm decent at it. I think I'm pretty good at it, but I'm not the best ever. But what I am good at, in my opinion, again, I told you my mom is a good people person, right? I try to build the people skills, the relationship building. So If I build a relationship with you and I make you think and make you believe and lead you to believe and see yourself in a greater light, it's going to be easier for me to teach you this information because now you trust me to give you things that can build you up and lift you up. You have to be ready for African American studies. You have to have a certain mental and emotional readiness because for all of us, black, white, green, orange, we've been lied to about black history. So if I come to you and say, hey, you know what? You like potato chips? A black man invented the potato chip. Just get out of here. You know what I mean? Because we don't think black folks can invent anything. True story, a black inventor invented the potato chip. I think his name was George Crumb. Just something small. I took the elevator up here. A black man invented the elevator. You know what I mean? But again, we've been led to believe a number of things about the black race or the African people, right? So you got to have a certain mental and emotional openness to hearing some of this information. So even before I give you any information, I tell you, look, Joey, you know what? I want you to kind of put your past 4 years of high school in the past. This is a new beginning. You starting in a fresh level playing field. You're a straight A student right now. I'm going to do my best to keep you a straight A student right now for the remainder of your college career, as long as you're with me. And when I look at you, I see myself. I see greatness. I see impact. I see just beauty. I see knowledge. You're a walking epitome of those things. Don't let anybody tell you different. Most people have never heard a teacher tell them those things. I'm talking about on day 1, day 2. You know? So it may open you up a little bit. And now once I kind of get you feeling better about yourself and your self-esteem kind of, risen up, your mind open a little bit, then I can teach you what's in these books about yourself. Or if you say you're a white student, I do the same thing with white students. Hey, your history and my history is connected. Don't let anybody tell you differently. Now it's connected on some negative, but I can show you also how black people raised white people. Black women raised white America. Black America raised America, right? I can show you some of those things and those examples. Don't let anybody tell you our history is not connected. If you're Latinx, if you're Native American, we have a shared history, the black, the African, the Latino, and the indigenous. Shared history. Don't let anybody separate or divide us. Our history is connected. But again, I have to share with you some information that you could grasp before I give you that big information. That's kind of how I do it. So it's relationship building. It's self-esteem building. It's self-identity development. So many of our young people come broken in these classrooms and have a negative sense of self. So you got to start there. And I've been fortunate to learn that and do that. And I really kind of got that from some of my experiences at the black colleges. They built our self-esteem. They built our self-confidence. They built our self-direction. Whether I knew that that's what they were doing or not, it makes more sense to me now. I can kind of see it and understand it a little bit more now as an adult. Maybe at 19, I didn't understand it. As an adult now, as a professional now in the classroom, I understand it. And so that's why I'm able to kind of pull from it and pull from those experiences and bring them into modern day classrooms today. And even outside the classroom, I still try and do that thing. It's relationship building. If you're going to work with people of color and students of color, black folks in particular, they got to know that you care about them. They got to know that you see them as people. They got to know that you are not going to treat them as a stereotype, even if I'm black and you're black. We got to come to a common understanding, common ground, because it's about trust. It's about authenticity. It's about, again, relationship building. So that's the approach I like to take.
Yeah, I appreciate that because with counseling, I use the same approach. Just teaching the participants and just letting them know we're trying to establish something. We have to be walking on common ground. You may be an intern, but don't feel just because that's your title, you don't have the leeway to ask me a question. Or as I always tell them, am I doing my job right? Let me know because I don't know if you don't tell me. And I'm here to give you information, but I'm here to give you inspiration as well. And again, I was talking about the history. I know sometimes, when we get a hold of African American history, we kind of channel what we didn't like, the negative things about it, and we use that as some type of power. But as you were saying, it's when talking to other groups, we do have a shared history. You cannot write us out. We can't write y'all out. Whether it be from the Seminoles, the Trail of Tears, the Alamo, even these missions over here, down in Mexico. We all connected. Like it was some Africans to somewhere there. It was some European Americans somewhere there. Even as in just the Civil War, we can't be like, well, it was all of them. Well, some people was help fight too. It wouldn't the war matter. It wouldn't be there. And as well, we was in the North as well fighting. So everywhere you look, as you said, we helped build this thing, and we play a big role in this. So I think that's a great aspect to point out that we worked together then. We could work together now, or at least bring our puzzle bring our piece to the puzzle to help alleviate or debunk this misinformation and show that we had worked together at some point in time. Speaking about the African American college experience, from your aspect, what would you say are factors that you have ran into with your students that have kept them on the path to graduate, or to make sure that they come in and open themselves to the college experience and not just high school too? You know what that means?
High school 2.0, yeah. Well, I think some things that can help any college student become successful in college. I think that the more you prepare yourself, the more confident you'll be. So you may not necessarily be like myself, the most confident in maybe your math skills, maybe your upper level math skills, right? And that's okay. One of the things you can do to prepare is to talk to the teacher, right? Outside of the classroom. So use the office hour, use the Zoom or whatever the case you got to be to make a one-on-one connection with your teacher, just to introduce yourself to your teachers after class or something like that. I think that helps build your confidence and your self-esteem, and it puts you in a different light from the other 30, 50, 100 students in class who don't do that. So again, that's relationship. That's part of that's relationship building. I think that anything that you can get your hands on in terms of reading materials prior to starting the classroom, if you're taking African American studies, Google what are some African American studies books or tenets or key role players in that field. So if trigonometry, you could do the same things. Who are some great trigonometrists or some great mathematicians and that type of thing? I think that you can just get a better sense of self if you do just a little bit of preparation on your subject matter that you're taking. I think also what could help in terms of student success, outside of the things like, finances or, having transportation to and from school and that type of thing. I think that one indicator and one factor of student success could be also where you sit in the classroom. Okay, are you sitting in the back, trying to hide and trying not to be called on? Are you sitting off to the side where you kind of like right by the door, I can just creep out the door? Or are you front and center where the information is kind of being disseminated? I think statistically, and I learned this from my guy I mentioned earlier, Art Barbosa, if you look at like a T in the classroom, typically those students that sit in the T, if it's a traditional classroom space, those are the ones that do best academically, like statistically. Are you using your resources like the tutoring center or the math center and that type of thing? Those types of things for support, because we all can't be good at everything. So I think utilizing your resources can help you in some great ways. And then I would just take it from a real practical sense. Let's think about first day of school. Everybody want to be fresh on the first day of school. Everybody's nervous on the first day of school too, though. Even your professor. Even I get nervous. And I think the nervousness is because we're anxious, we're excited, we're looking forward to it. We don't know what to expect, but we have an idea where we want to go. Like, So even I get nervous. It's like almost like, playing in a big game. Like, yeah, all right, my energy's up. But think about this, right? We put so much into our external appearance. Man, I got to have a fresh cut. My shoes got to look right. I got to have the new backpack, or I got to have the new iPhone or the new Jordans or whatever. We put so much into the external preparation for the first day or first week. What type of preparation are we doing mentally and emotionally? Are we bigging ourselves up? Hey, I can do this. Are we around people telling me, hey, you got this? Are we looking in the mirror and saying, hey, I'm ready for this? Like, what type of mental, emotional, or physical preparation are we making to ensure that we're prepared? We can look great on the external. That's the thing, probably more the easier part. Emotionally, mentally, are we getting ourselves prepared? And I think if young people kind of took a little bit more, put a little bit more preparation into those things, as well as looking good. You want to look good too, but you want to feel good and think positively about yourself in this fashion. I think that could help. Yeah.
I will use them things next month. So thank you. Now I kind of want to switch gears. Black Empower. Yeah. Please explain, what is Black Empower? And I see you got some products, some knowledge in front of us. We'll get to those, but please let us know, what is Black Empower, sir?
Black Empower is my business. It's my baby. It's my creative baby. I will say that. But Black Empower comes out of some tragedy, unfortunately. I was watching like 2014, I want to say, Michael Brown's situation in Ferguson, Missouri unfold, where he was killed, a couple of days before he was going off to college, mind you. That part really wasn't ever in the story. But anyway, Michael Brown was killed, and, his community, Ferguson, Missouri, went up in smoke and went up in flames. They protested, rioted, whatever the case you want to, say. Police officer acquitted, the whole nine. The typical story that we hear. Michael Brown was shot with his hands up, shot in his back, as the ballistics kind of show. Michael Brown's community and his father, or lack thereof involvement of his father, was blamed for the reason why he was killed. I was watching the news, and they alluded to, well, if Michael Brown's father was involved in his life, he would still be alive today. Something of that sort. And that pissed me off, because Michael Brown wasn't killed by anybody else but an officer, a white officer at that, right? And come to find out, his father and his stepfather were involved in his life. So it enraged me. But more than just being upset, as I am with all these state-sponsored and police-sponsored killings, it made me want to go to do something creatively. So Black Empower was kind of born out of that. So in 2014, the idea was, hey, you know what? They talk so negatively about black fathers and black men. Let me try to put some counter narratives out there. And that's where Black fatherhood kind of comes from. Okay. So I said, look, I know too many involved and engaged and invested black dads for this to be the only single story about black men. We're not there. The reason why our sons like Michael Brown are being killed in the street is because we're not involved. That's BS. You know what I mean? That's not the whole story. That's an easy excuse. So I just went kind of similar to what you're doing and just started interviewing brothers in the community, whether it's at the barbershop, whether it's the football coach, whether it's, your guy next door, whether it is, whomever, right? These various men in these various fathering positions, parenthood positions, the single dad, the dad who's raising biracial kids, the dad who's taking on non-biological kids, the dad who's going through the child support, custody support, the dad who might have a couple kids by a couple different women, an African brother raising kids in America, right? Like all these different scenarios that black men kind of find themselves in. I wanted to just hear from them firsthand. So that was kind of the impetus for Black fatherhood, was the death, but out of the death comes some life, right? And this book and the film, as a result, has taken on like a life of its own. And that was the foundation for Black Empower. I knew I wanted to do books and film that gave some counter narrative stories. Before I got into books and film, though, I felt, well, how can I get my money up and my visibility up? I started creating merchandise, T-shirts, and things of that sort with empowering slogans. So one of my more popular shirts is obviously the Black Empower logo, which you'll see, you know, on shirts. But I have shirts that say King and Queen and things of that sort that people gravitated towards, that they, you know, started to love. And I started to take some of that money that I was making from the shirts, and, you know, to be honest with you, sold a lot of shirts. But I reinvested from the shirts and the earrings and the stickers and doing events, and then started putting it more and focusing on my original further out goals, which was books and film. And again, Black Fatherhood, the book and the film, was the first book and film combo that I've done. I've done 4 films and probably, I don't know now, 10 books at this point. Yep, since 2015. So I had a goal. From 2015 to 2025, I wanted to do 10 books and 5 films. I'm still working on the films part. That's a little bit tougher than the books. But yeah, we got a number of different products out to create a counter narrative to the mainstream stereotypes that we hear about Black people. I want to empower the Black diaspora. Black Empower.
There it is.
There it is.
Wow, yeah. Okay. That's great. Thank you for the service. I do remember the time of Mike Brown, and I was working in San Francisco at the time. And I remember even the protests. I was out there. It was one on New Year's, I recall, in San Francisco. And I think that's what, looking back, I think that woke a lot of Black people up. Because I call that the pre-George Floyd era. Because George Floyd woke a lot of people up too. Definitely because we was at home. But those that recall that Mike Brown, I would say him popped it off in the 2010s. But even going back further, the same thing with Mr. Oscar Grant. And I remember I was living in L.A. at the time with Oscar Grant, just watching it on the news, watching a dude get acquitted, and I was pissed off. And to see it as I'm just older now, and to see the same thing. So as myself, as you said, kind of, this is my response of we have to put some counter narratives out and showcase that we want to empower, improve as well, but as well inspire. To say, you know, we can still do things. And just to touch back on what you said, which always I think is a great example of our people in contemporary times, how even under the boot of racism, the plantation, anybody, we still invented all those things. So you can't, because I know my friend, if you may have seen it before, there's like a big poster that you can buy, and it shows all our inventions. And you will look at it like, dang, we did all that.
Everything from little to big. So that poster, I have 2 of them. That's right. You know what I mean? And yes, everything from the alphabet, which was an African invention, to the university, which started in Africa, all the way to, you know, modern day things like the caller ID. I think some of these video game consoles, the Super Soaker water gun, right? Black inventors, men and women, have invented almost everything. They say necessity is the mother of invention. Yeah. So if you need it, you're going to find a way to create it. Yeah. The sprinkler, the ironing board, the mailbox, the fitted sheet, ice cream, washing machine, the stoplight, the gas mask, right? The soles of your shoes, the horseshoe, the golf tee, the fountain pen, the folding chair. I want to say the air conditioner, you know what I mean? The blimp, the elevator, right? I mean, just so many things. The hair straightening comb, right? And the dunk. Black inventions, Black culture, Black creativity, Black ingenuity, the blood running in us from the African, our African past, which Africa is the mother of invention of life, right? Fire. And anyway, we you know, and I'm not trying to just brag on us. We're the sole innovators. No, we're not the sole innovators, but we are the most creative people on this face of this earth. And everybody has taken some of our creativity, some of our invention, but necessity being the mother of invention, we had to create it to make our lives easier because we were the manual laborers for America and for the Americas. Yes. You know, so I forgot what the point I was trying to make with that, but but yeah, you know, not only did we build this nation or these nations, right? We set the new world, the Americas, the Caribbean, Latin America, Central America, North America, on a 500, 600 year head start from a lot of these other nations, right? So where we are today, you know, largely has been created on the back of black people. Afro-American, African Americans, Afro-Latino, Afro-Caribbean, whatever, you know, you want to put it. The African connected with the indigenous and, you know, the Latinx or the Hispanic or whomever, right? Our histories were connected in those ways through slavery, and forced into slavery, we were the creators of so much stuff, you know what I mean? And still to this day, we're no longer physically enslaved, but, you know, the vestiges of slavery still remain, and we're still creating, and we're still, you know, innovating, whether it's music and musical styles, hairstyles, food styles, whatever the case may be, right? So, you know, I'm not saying that we're old, but we're old.
That's right.
Reparations definitely are due because everything economically was built on our back first. No two ways about that. You can't talk me off of that. Right. You can't make me see something different. Do you know what I mean? It's just, it is what it is. That's the facts. That's the historical facts. Right. So we're talking about black history, which is American history, or we're talking about U.S. history, which includes black history. Reparations should be a part of the conversation that we're having. Oh, yeah. From California all the way to Maine. Yes.
Agreed. Yeah, I agree. I want my check. That's straight up. And it is old. It was something that was told. It was in law. Honor that. You know, as we expected to honor the law. Okay, so the books. I definitely want to get on your books. Can you tell us and showcase the books you have with us right now?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, the first one that I took, took my time to kind of craft was Black Fatherhood, Trials and Tribulations. And again, this book has taken on a life of its own, and it's been praised by men and women, fathers and mothers, people even with no kids, because it's an eye-opener, and I think that it helps to humanize black families, black men, black women, black children, etc. So this was the first one. And think about it. Stephen Curry, we'll just take him as an example, right? Greatest shooter now of all time. And I don't care who else you want to say. He's the best three-point shooter in the game. He got the record. But he started taking some shots from way out. He didn't start off taking shots from way out, but I think it might have always been in his mind. But once he started hitting those ones way out and they start falling, let me take 2 or 3 of these a game. Let me take 4 or 5 of these a game, right? Now he's taking them all the time, and other players are as well. So because of the success of this jumper fell and it's made a splash. I started, okay, maybe I can do some more. So I went from writing for adults to now writing for children. The next book that I wrote after that was this book, Little Brother. It's based on a true story, based on watching my kids and nieces and nephews play around and that type of thing, right? And also from my childhood, I have a younger brother. I'm the big brother. He's the little brother, right? And the little brother always kind of follows around what the big brother does, or what the older siblings do, the big cousins or whomever. So this book was written again as a tribute to the kids in my life, but also because I always read such negative statistics about literacy with our young children, black and brown, and school to prison pipeline and things of that sort. And I wanted to try to disrupt that pipeline. So again, we're empowering the black race. We're empowering the black diaspora through books. And Little Brother is kind of my first book for children. And it's been successful in taking a life of its own. And from Little Brother, I knew, look, I can't have one without the other. We got to do Little Sister. That's right. right? So we have one for the female main character, where the little sister now becomes kind of the one who follows her older brother and older sister around, and they try to teach her responsibility and chores and things of that sort. So the kids have been loving these books. You know, schools and community groups have been loving those books, and I'm very fortunate that I went into the kids space, you know, in that regard. And I'm a girl dad. I couldn't have girls and not have something for the sister, right? The little sister. So again, it's kind of based on the true story. I knew also that I wanted to impact the Latinx and the Afro-Latinx population. So we have Hermanito, which is little brother in Spanish, right? And this book is written bilingual, one side English, one side Spanish for our dual language learners. So we're looking at, you know, those who speak 2 languages or more or want to learn 2 languages or more. I've even seen adults say this book made some sense to them because they want to learn Spanish. So, and then again, not only do we have Hermanito, but we have Hermanita, which is the, again, little sister in Spanish and English, bilingual books. So I went into writing books for kids. I'm going to continue writing books for kids too, because as a higher education practitioner, once your son or daughter or your student, your niece or your nephew gets into my class and they're 19, 20, it's a little tough to teach them the basics of literacy. They may be 20 years old, but reading at a 12-year-old reading level. Sometimes that happens. I want to try to disrupt that early on, at 6, at 5, at 8. And I want to write some engaging books that'll help our young people want to read and want to pick up books. And, you know, readers are leaders. That's my slogan. Literacy is the foundation of all learning. So if we can get our kids literate and self-confident in their reading and writing skills, nothing our young people can't do. That's why I went into writing these books for kids. So little brother, little sister, Hermanita and Hermanito. This last one that I have with me, Black Voices from the Ivory Tower, is really about the Black experience in higher education. Students, faculty, and staff, and some administrators poured into this for me. And it's our experience as Black people coming out of this George Floyd situation, coming out of Breonna Taylor and Ahmaud Arbery and the violence that we saw in 2020 and the pandemic and things of that sort. But how that impacted us as Black people specifically, right? On our higher education campuses. But also not just how that impacted us, but how we give solutions and suggestions and best practices to colleges and universities on how to better include us, how to better involve us, how to give us a sense of belonging that oftentimes is not there on these campuses. Right. So Black Voices from the Ivory Tower is a workbook. There's question and answer in here. There's questions and answer in the little kids' books as well. But there's some question and answer that you can take back to your job, to your corporate office, to your college, your campus, that'll help you really serve your Black students and also incorporate your Black colleagues in a much better way. And this is also a film. So we came out with the Black Voices from the Ivory Tower film in addition to the workbook. So yeah, those are just some of the books that I brought with me today. There's some others out there. You can Google them under my name, Khalid White, and some things will pop up, Amazon and other places like that. But these are the ones that I brought today. But yeah, I've been fortunate, man, to really find some self-confidence in the pen. It goes back to reading those Jet and Ebony and Essence and Vibe and, you know, reading those articles from front to back and, oh, the way he articulated this sounds so good. Oh, the way that she wrote this and put this together, you know, looking at the editor and who did this article, who did the op-eds. That stuff was intriguing to me. And now I'm kind of using it and put it into practice for myself. So it comes full circle. Yeah.
Oh, man. Thank you. Very powerful. Very powerful. Man, I gotta go get some books for my nephew, my goddaughters. Shout out to my man Savalis, is my best friend. He got 3 little girls, so I got something for them for their birthday. So thank you. Also, yeah, the Hermanita. Oh man, I think that is a great idea. not only for the dual language people, but that's also another way for young African American kids or others who don't speak Spanish can pick it up and start learning Spanish. So, yo, that's powerful. Yo, hats off to you. Yes, hats off to you for that. Yeah, I'm gonna add those to my collection. And I would say the Black Voices on LinkedIn. I've seen you and other educators chatting about it and posting it, and I was like, oh man, I got to check that out. Just about navigating, because I had my own experience last year navigating, which I'm still waiting on something to come through for my investigation, but I'll touch on that later. But yeah, I think that is very powerful for many of us in the field, in these professional fields, of navigating with the information we may have or what we may not have that we will need. So let me ask you about the two questions. What has been your favorite film that you have produced so far, as well? What has been your favorite book that you have written?
That's a hard question to answer. My favorite book that I've written, my favorite film that I've produced. I mean, I love them all, for different reasons. I would say that this is my new favorite book and film that I've produced and written, because it's the newest one. It's like my newest baby. But they're all babies to me. They're all things that I love and hold dear. I will say this. Black Fatherhood was the first one. Black Fatherhood book and film has probably gone the furthest, in terms of internationally, and then also in terms of having impact. And people still to this day hit me up out the blue. Hey, I just read this Black Fatherhood book. Like, this is not new. I mean, the book itself is not new. It's almost, I think I wrote it in 2016. So, that's several years ago. But the impact is still fresh and new for a lot of people. The kids love Little Brother. The kids love Hermanito. You know what I mean? So I love getting their feedback. And, when I go do events at the schools and they give me hugs and high fives, like, there's no better feeling than that. You know what I mean? So I can't choose one. I love them all. But at the same time, I think my best work is still out there, so still to come. But right now, my favorite one is Black Voices from the Ivory Tower, the book and the film. I think I had an incredible videographer that helped me on the film, and some incredible help on this book. The book includes 15 students and their experiences, sharing their experience, 15 Black students, college students. The book also includes, the Black Voices book includes 15 Black students, college students. It also includes 35 Black professionals up and down California, 2-year schools, 4-year schools, and in all points in between, from Northern California all the way to Southern California. Because as you were mentioning, it's tough being Black and navigating these systems. Whether we're talking about the college system, the corporate system, the nonprofit world, whether we're talking about finance and being in the business world, whether we're talking about the tech world, Black skin is almost a reason why somebody's not going to give you an opportunity or somebody wants to take something from you. Not anything that you've done or not anything that you haven't done. It's just that there's stereotypes that are so pervasive, and the anti-Blackness is so pervasive everywhere that we even start believing about ourselves. You know what I mean? And it's tough. So I think this Black Voices book, especially coming out of the experiences of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and Ahmaud Arbery and others, is captured in here. What that did to us, how that hurt us, but also how we can provide some solutions. We give some practical things that companies and your boss, your manager, colleges, libraries can do to make Black people feel welcomed in their space. And once we feel welcome, you're going to get our best. Sky's the limit. You're going to get all this creativity that we've been given. You've never seen us at our best. We've always been kept at our worst, systemically. Imagine if we were given a chance to be operating at 100% as opposed to operating at 30% battery.
Whole different game.
Whole different everything. All right. So get the knee off our neck and let us operate in some ways that we're able to flourish, and you'll have a whole different world because we impact the world.
Yeah. Clearly. Mm-hmm. And yeah, really, because now pop culture is really just like Black culture at the end of the day. far cry from about 20 years ago. You know, you see NSYNC, Backstreet Boys. Now hip hop has eclipsed that.
NSYNC and the Backstreet Boys were NSYNC and the Backstreet Boys were influenced by New Edition and the Jackson 5 and Boys to Men. You know?
Yes.
For the books, you can find them on my website, blkmpwr.com. And also on Amazon and Google and that type of, or Amazon and Target. Just Google them or Google my name and you'll see some books pop up. People always ask me where they can get them and that type of thing, but they're online. You can get them at your favorite online retailer. But not only can you get them, and I'm going to encourage you to get them. Again, I use Black editors. I use Black illustrators. I use Latinx translators. I use Latinx illustrators. We're putting the money and the resources back into the community for these books and for these films. My filmographers and all, Black people are helping me to create this. So we're creating jobs in a sense for people, not in a sense, but we're creating jobs for people and helping people kind of get their dreams and their products and their goals out there. So again, it's about making money, yes, in a business, yes, definitely. But we're turning back around and we're empowering those who we can. And I only use people of color and Black folks in specific for 9 out of 10 of my jobs. 9 out of 10 of these projects. Black editor, Black illustrator, Latino illustrator, Black illustrator, Black editor, anyway. So we trying to recycle the Black dollar.
That's right. We appreciate that. Kind of like we was talking about earlier with the film class. So these are Black books. Everything from the grassroots is that's being produced with these books is for us by us, and I appreciate that. I try to model my business structure the same way, for us by us. I know that we have professionals out here that can do it, so why not extend it? One last question I did have. This is mainly for Black men. I'm a strong Black male advocate, which is why I look to try to partner with as many brothers as I can and fellowship and work together in some type of capacity. What would be your message for Black men today? How can we, I use a Public Enemy song, Brothers Gonna Work It Out. Speak to that of how can we foster a better world for ourselves going forward and for our families, children, the young people coming behind us?
That's a great question. That's a hard question. That's the $1 million question. How can brothers work it out? How are we as Black men going to assume our rightful place as leaders and the kings that we are? It sounds very cliche, very simple. We got to work together. We've been conditioned not to, socialized to see each other as, opposite or enemy, whatever the case may be. But that was some very negative socialization, and that was some very detrimental socialization. So we're stronger together, Now I know there's some wounds that we're going to have to work past. There's some things that we're going to have to heal. There may be some people that can't work together, But we ultimately see the end result when we can't work together. Just look at Tupac and Biggie, Unfortunately, look at Jordan and Pippen right now.
Oh, yeah.
That's heartbreaking. You know what I'm saying? But they're stronger together. One needs the other. Right. Jordan didn't win without Pippen. Pippen didn't win without Jordan, right? We need each other. So we got to find some ways to get on some common ground. And I'm talking to young Black men and old Black men, light skin, dark skin, gay and straight. You know what I mean? Like, we have to find some ways to put some of those separators to the side and come together, man, and be able to work together. And I'm fortunate to be able to work with young brothers like yourself. Thank you. And others to help, further some of my causes, man. So, again, we got to find some people that can work together. Maybe we can't work with everybody, but we can find some people that we can work with that's on a similar path and goal oriented as us and make it happen. Look at, and I'm going to wrap it up with this. Look at E40, Ice Cube, Too Short, and Snoop Dogg. Mount Westmore. Each of them is successful in their own right. Each of them is a legend in their own right, whether we're talking about movies, film, TV, music, clothes, food, liquor, whatever the case may be. They're all doing their own separate thing. When they get together, even being the legend that they are, powerful beyond words, just having those four together. And so I think as kind of like what we would consider OGs and legends, they put a great like public service announcement to other black people coming behind them, black men coming behind them. Look, we all got our own separate things and separate places we want to go, but find some like-minded brothers together and you can put yourself on the face of this mountain. Yeah. There it is.
Powerful. Great answer. Okay, thank you. My last question I ask everybody for the base of the channel. When you hear the word saying African, what does that mean to you?
Sane African. That's me. Sane African. Sane mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and that African blood is in me. I think it might have been, who was it that said, wherever Africa is, I am. Was that Garvey? I think it might have been Garvey. I'm drawing a blank on who actually said that. But sane, I might do some crazy stuff, but it'll make sense at a certain point. You know, so I think the idea of sane is, you know, that depends on whose version of sanity that you thinking about. But yeah, the sane African is us. You know, us that want to progress. That's us.
Thank you. Okay, so I appreciate the time, sir, to sit down with me, answer some questions, give me some more breakdown of the knowledge you have and the works you have produced. As I said, I'm definitely going to get them black voices for my journey moving forward and just my experiences in the past and learn. But the children's books, I'm shaking my head right now. Powerful, powerful. I got to spread them, and I will do my job to spread those to my family members because we need to see that as young people, to see us in these books and motivate us to get that literacy up and to read more. So it's powerful. Any last words you want to leave us with, where the people can find you, contact you?
Where you can find me, contact me on all social media platforms. I don't use TikTok, but everything else you can find me at BLKMPWR. That's Black Empower. You can Google me, Khalid White. You can also look at my website, blkmpwr.com, blackempower.com. So those are the places you can find me. I'm also on LinkedIn. I'm kind of trying to grow my LinkedIn thing. So follow me on a professional tip, LinkedIn, Khalid Akil White. You'll find me on there. The whole government name is up there. All right. Peace.
All right. Thank you, Dr. White. Once again, this has been a Sane African production. We are here at Cal State East Bay. We just wrapped it up with the good doctor. And I do got to say this before we go. One thing I do love about your name, I love Khalid Muhammad. So when I see Dr. Khalid, I was like, oh, you got the name. I appreciate it. But you definitely wearing it well, brother. I appreciate your time, your knowledge, information. Look forward to seeing you with more books, more things going forward. And yeah, that's a wrap. All right, peace.